how many of us have heard the name Experitest? Have you come across? Okay. For those of you who really don't know us, and for those who really know us, something more, I'll just take you through as to what we really do. Well, as we were introduced, we were set up in 2009 out of a small cafe in Tel Aviv. That's where this gentleman actually started writing the application that today happens to be a worldwide leader. So today we have 1,000+ customers all across the globe. Interestingly, cover the entire DevOps in terms of users and developers and testers. We've spread pretty recently across the globe in terms of, we're based out of Tel Aviv and Israel, have offices now in the US and also in India, since India happens to be the hub of all testing worldwide practice. We're available as a SaaS model as well as an on-premise deployment. So we call ourselves the hybrid company, the way we execute our testing. And we support everything, I would say, right from open source to you have proprietary stuff, we support that. And what we also offer is the digital quality assurance platform for both mobile and web applications. And to endorse that, that's the customer list that we have in a very recent span of time that we've been operational. Today, we're proud to say that 7 out of the 10 worldwide, the largest banks use us to do testing. And that is further endorsed by Gartner. Now, Gartner recognizes Experitest as the only vendor which actually checks in all the requirements of what they call as a complete testing provider for mobile apps, mobile and web apps. So that's where we are. That's the endorsement from Gartner. And to actually take you through the exciting cycle what Guy has, I'll just hand it over to Guy. So ladies and gentlemen, Guy Arielli.
Hi everyone, and thank you for hosting me. It's always great to be in India. I've been here for 15 times. I'm sure that I can beat most of you in the places I've visited in India. So Dharamsala, Leh, Manali, Kodaikanal, Varkala. I've been in all of those places, Varanasi. So it's really a beautiful country. If there is one country you don't need to go out of, it's India. So if you need to visit a single country, you should visit India. I really like it, so thank you. We're going to talk about a change that is happening now, a transition into the digital, what it means and how it can affect your life. So look at those logos, and this is resemble the digital transition. So we have a Blockbuster and Toys R Us that bankrupt, Radio Shack that bankrupt, Mercy that did a cut down, Walmart that bought Jet, and PetSmart that bought Chewy. So it shows you both the risk as well as the opportunity around the digital transformation. Now, this is what the CEO of JP Morgan Chase says. I run a technology company that happened to have a bank. This is how the big enterprise perceive their company. I'm a technology company, and I have a bank. I could have anything, but luckily I have a bank. It's emphasized the importance those people see in their technology. And if you ask them, in the past, all the bankers, they didn't care about technology, they didn't think that it can affect them. But you can see how the revolution is affecting those CEOs. Now, we all know the different paradigmas. Let's start with Agile. Agile talks about shrinking the cycles. right? So we want to do a smaller design, a smaller development, a smaller testing, and deployment, right? So we want to shrink the cycle from a cycle that took 3 months to a cycle that takes a week or 2 weeks or something like that. The only thing that is not scalable in that model is the testing, right? So I can do a small design, I can do a small development, the testing will be smaller because I'm testing a small feature, but then I have all the regression. This is just growing and growing and growing. So you cannot do agile without test automation. It just doesn't work. Now, DevOps is all about collaboration. So what it's trying to prevent is throwing a version out of over the wall. So I'm the developer, we build, we did some testing, we are throwing the version to the operation. From now on, it is their problem. I'm on vacation, I'm available on my mobile phone, but if there is a problem, just call me, I will try to help you. So that's need to get stopped because it doesn't really work. So in order for that to work, the operation and development team need to work in cooperation. It should be a unified team with the same responsibility to deliver quality software faster. So this is DevOps. CICD. CICD is one of the most fascinating part. It's building a machine, building a quality machine, and I have a live demo today that within it I will show how it can be done. So we will take a test that we have written locally, and I'm going to run it. I'm going to use Jenkins to build it and run it continuously. But this building of the machine is the most important part, because on one hand, there will be new version. On the other hand, people will add more and more tests, and this machine will run forever, and it will produce quality software. This is the target that most of the organization are aiming for. And shift left is something that can have a huge impact on everyone here. It's like a huge wave that is coming, and we can see this tsunami of water that is going to come, and we can do two things. We can do nothing and get flooded by this water, or we can learn how to surf and surf this wave. Because there is a huge disappointment from how the testing is done today. The results are, in a lot of cases, a disaster. And what managers are saying is, we don't care about R&D or QA. You are the R&D manager. You are responsible for responsibility. You are responsible for quality. I don't care about excuses. This is the R&D responsibility of the quality, and it changes the entire way people are testing, and how teams are built into squad. And this is an additional important thing. This is a suggestion for you. Learn to code. Learn to code. It's in 2 years, every tester will need to know how to code. Now, I know that it's like driving. There are a race driving people that can drive Formula 1, and my mother is also driving. It's not the same quality of driving, but also my mother can drive. So if my mother can drive, everyone can code. And in a few years, it will be learned. It's in school, in the 3rd grade, you will start learning to code, and everyone will know how to code. Not everyone will be an amazing programmer, but everyone will know how to code, and this is something, if you can take one thing out of this presentation, is that you should learn how to code. Do you know what is a technical debt? Anyone know what technical debt is? Every time that you're not finished your work as a developer to the end, you are creating a technical debt. So if you are not writing documentation, it's a technical debt. If you are not doing test automation, it's a technical debt. Now you are going to pay this debt over time. And as the cycle are shortened, you are paying the debt in a more frequent way. And in some point of time, and this is what is happening to a big organization, the debt is so big that it's preventing me from progressing. So monitoring the technical debt and doing test automation for every new feature and covering old feature as well is a very important part, especially when you are doing continuous integration. So we all agree that you cannot shorten the release cycle without doing continuous testing. This is two different organizations. One is an organization that gives a feedback to the developer within a week, and on the left is an organization that gives a feedback within an hour to the developer. This is the feedback cycle, and you can see how the developer is spending his time. So you can see that if I am getting a feedback within a week, I will only 10% of my time will go into actual developing code. I will waste time on root cause analysis, on bug reproduction, on context switching. And if I'm getting a feedback within an hour, I can do 3.5 times more work just by the fact that when I'm getting the feedback, I'm still in the context of what I did. We don't need to see who did this commit. It's very obvious. I'm responsible. I need to fix the issue. I remember what I did, so it's very easy to fix. So this is your responsibility. If you will be able to bring your organization to 1 hour feedback, it means that every 10 developer now worth 35 developers. So you can make a huge change on your organization just by enabling this fast feedback. And this is how the graph looks over time, feedback against productivity. And the goal will be to bring feedback to the developer within minutes. Okay, so just a little bit about the continuous testing process. I have engineers that do a checking of the code. I have developers that check the application code. It goes to Jenkins. Using Maven or Gradle, the code is getting built, both of the application and of the test. It is then being deployed into a cloud. The tests are getting executed. The cloud could be for mobile and for web, desktop web, and then the feedback is going back to the developer. And this is the machine I'm talking about, and I will demonstrate how you can build that machine. So I'm going to skip a little slide here because we don't have a lot of time. And luckily, I did this recording because my computer died yesterday. So I'm starting here with Jenkins. Jenkins is used to do this continuous execution of my test. I also have an Appium project that I've built. This project is something that is a local project that I was used to execute it, and I want to show you how I can do all of that. So this is the Appium test. It is running on my local host. Those are the capabilities that I'm configuring for my test, different capabilities. Okay, just a second. So this is the, and now I'm using GitHub to upload my code. So all of my test code are in GitHub. This is a public project. You can access it and see it. And this is a grid environment of devices and browser that I'm using in order to build this machine. This is part of our platform, and you can, we have a demonstration station outside. It enables you to gain access to any device or browser within a click of a button. This is an iOS 11.2 device, and I can just work with it as if it was a device in my hand, so I can use it for manual testing as well. So this is the platform I'm going to use in my continuous testing. Now, I'm going to configure a new Jenkins job. This is going to be a freestyle project. I just need to give a name for my Jenkins job. It's a freestyle project, and now I need to configure it. The first thing I will need to do is pull the sources from the Git. So here, this is the source control part. We will also need to build the trigger, how we trigger this execution, environment variable, how to pass variable into my test, the build and the execution of the test themselves. So those are the processes we are going to configure. First of all, the Git repository. I'm just going to the GitHub. I'm going to copy the repository, and I'm just using it inside my Git. This is the URL to my repository, and here I can also use my credential if needed. In GitHub, we don't need to use the credentials. Then I can save it, and I can execute this process. Now, everyone that have access to this Jenkins can trigger the execution, and you can see, you can go into this specific build, and you can see the printout of the console and see how it looks like. So this is great. We were able to pull all the sources. The next thing that we would like to do is to pass parameters from the Jenkins into my test. So I need to provide the URL for my environment. I need to provide an access key. I need to provide the devices that I would like to execute on. So there are many parameters that I would like to be able to control from within the Jenkins and the continuous integration environment. So first of all, I'm going to pass the URL. Then, instead of passing username and password, I'm going to pass the access key. So this is preventing me from exposing username and password into this environment. So I can just copy the access key, and I can parameterize my test with that access key. Then I want to select the device that we are going to execute on. In this case, the device, we are going to do a device query, and the device query is very simple. I want to run on any iOS device. So when we talk about continuous testing, we have one of our biggest customers is JP Morgan Chase. They will have around 500 devices, and they will be executing it every hour. In a day, they will be executing 1 million test cases. It's bringing us also to the analysis part. So all of the test cases need to be stable and need to run all the time. So now I would like to use those parameters within my test. So those parameters from the Jenkins is being passed into my test using system environment variable. So I can use, in this case, I'm using Java, and the first thing I would like to pass into my test is the build number. I will use that in the reporting system. So this is something that Jenkins is providing for me automatically. So I'm entering the build number, and then I will read from the Jenkins the access key. You remember this is the key that we added in the Jenkins, and then also the device query. So environment variable is the way to pass parameter from the Jenkins into your test, and then you can control whatever you would like to control from the Jenkins. Now the last thing is the URL that we have configured in the Jenkins. Now I have a typo mistake here in the device query name. It is important that the value will be correct, otherwise the parameter will not get passed. Okay, so in order to build this project, I'm using Gradle. So Gradle is something very similar to Maven and Ant. It's a very sophisticated environment of building. And in order to execute, I'm using testng parallel execution. This is the file that enables me to do the parallel execution. And here are the list of all of the tests that I'm going to execute. If I'm running it locally, I can run it once and it will take me 1 hour to execute. Now I'm going to change it to 5 or 4, the thread count, so I will have 5 or 4 tests that will run in parallel. So now I've did all that changes. I'm going to push those changes into the Git. Now, in the next time the Jenkins is going to execute, it is going to pull the code, it is going to build it, and then we'll see how the execution goes. So I'm committing the code into the Git. The code is now went to GitHub, and it is my master code. Now I'm going into my build configuration, and I need to add the build process itself. So the build process itself is a Gradle script. All I need to specify here is the task that I would like to perform. So the first task will be clean. I want to clean my environment, and then I will use build. The build task will execute the test as well. It will build the test code, the code of the test. It will compile it, and then it will execute the test. Now I've triggered the execution. And if I go to the console, you will see that it pulled all the code. It is built the code, the Gradle build code, and now the tests are getting executed. So this is great. Let's see how the execution looks like. So this is the grid environment. Those are all the devices, the 4 devices that I've configured, and each one of them is executing a different test case. So instead for this scenario to take an hour, now it is taking something like 4 minutes to get execute. And what I need to do is use that machine to push more tests, more devices, more application. So those are the grid environment that we are talking about. So the execution is about to finish. The tests are getting queued. A new test, whenever a test is getting finished, a new test is getting triggered. It's very powerful because you can see, you can also run it on web browser. If you will come to our booth, you can see that it can also be executed on web browser. And you can either use our environment to do that execution, or you can install it locally on your premise and connect devices, and we will facilitate browser for doing that. But the capability to do the parallel execution and get a very fast feedback is very crucial in your environment, because as you remember, we would like to give the feedback to our R&D within an hour. So everything finished successfully. Now the next thing to do is to see the reports. As I said, the largest customer that we have, they will execute 1 million test cases every day. And the big challenge is the analysis. And this is a BI system. It will show you here all the tags of each test. When you execute a test, we will tag it with the OS version, the screen size, the operating system, the browser type, different property. Here we can see the actual visual report. But when we tag test, it enables us to analyze and understand what is the root cause analysis. We can tell you all of your iOS 11 on big screen sizes tests are failing. You have a problem in this area. So it enables you to do a very fast root cause analysis. And when you are executing 1 million test cases, this is a very important thing to have, to be able to do a very fast root cause analysis. So the next thing I'm going to do is add a post-build action. I would like to collect the test and G result and add a link into the BI system of the testing. So this is the Gradle task, and this is the directory from where I'm going to collect the result. Next, I'm going to add a link into my reporting, so everyone that would like to see the result just will get that link, and it will be able to click on that link. So I'm taking the reporter link here. You can see that in this link I have a build number 3. So this is the build number which is hard-coded. I need to change it to the actual dynamic build number, and this is a trick within Jenkins. I can use the same environment variable of the build number within Jenkins, and now whenever the build is progressing, I will be able to view this direct link. Now, what I'm going to do next, I'm going to execute it continuously. So this system will run forever. It is never, when it's the triggering mechanism in the build, it is now I'm configuring, it is to just execute it endlessly. And this will run forever. There will be new version, there will be more tests, there will be more devices, but this process will run forever. It will make sure that my tests are fully stable because they are running forever. And if a test fails once every 100 iteration, in a few hours, I will be able to find that and fix that. This will make sure that everything is functioning all the time. And everything needs to be green all the time. It's not, you know, I've ran 100 test cases, 9 fail. None fail. Every time, all the time, everything needs to be green from the beginning. So, as I'm running out of time, we can maybe go into a question. I hope it wasn't too technical. It is an intense session, but I really wanted to show you what is continuous testing is all about, and that it's something that it's very easily can be adopted by your organizations.
Thank you, Guy. Yeah, I think because this has been fairly hands-on and we got a view of the actual running code, etc. So would I have some techies' hands going up for discussing with Guy? Any questions you have, throw it on the floor, and we can take it from there. Yeah, lady here, gentleman there. Yeah. Here.
So here the devices are locally used, or they stay in some other location like server or somewhere, or any test engineer can use the devices?
So you can do it both. You can download the software, install it on a Windows machine, connect 10 devices, and create your own lab, or we also provide it as a service. We have a huge bank that we host their devices, and they have a dedicated lab, or you can use shared devices, depend on the security level that you require.
Hi everyone, my name is Suresh. My company name is Untitled Software Private Limited. So we use the same kind of infrastructure in our company. So the main challenge we face here is the maintaining the test. So how do we maintain the test?
So usually when you refer to test maintenance, you are referring to object identification, the application under test that is changing. Now, usually you will need to maintain tests because you did a lot of work around. You had some element in the UI and you didn't have any way to identify it, so you used the class name, you didn't have an ID or accessibility label, so you did some workaround. You need the cooperation from your R&D, so this workaround will be an official commitment from the R&D. This is how we identify this element. Now, you know, if you will continue doing workaround, there will always be failure. But if you're doing this execution, and this is the first thing that the developer sees, and he cannot commit his code because of that, then the first thing that we will do is to fix it, provide you the IDs that you need in order to identify and maintain the test. And when you do this huge execution, it will remove any fluctuation in your test. Because after some times you will make your test more and more robust. And as the cycle here could be minutes, you will, if a test is not robust, you will identify it in a much earlier stage.
Hi everyone, I'm Shrija. I'm from Tawan. I work on testing of big data analytics solutions. And a requirement from most of our customers is that continuous integration and deployment. So how does this continuous testing process fit into a continuous release and deployment?
Can you speak up? I'm not sure I fully
Yeah,
understand.
so now that you have demonstrated the continuous testing process, how does this further translate into continuous release and deployment and sending the code on to production?
Okay, so if you have everything automated, and what you can do is once this process ended successfully and all of the tests passed successfully, you can trigger a process that will deploy the application into stage, run the test on the stage, then deploy the application into production, run monitoring on the production. So this is the machine that you can build. So your responsibility is to build the gates, whether to push it from QA to stage and then from stage to production.
Thank you.
That's all the time we can spare. Thank you so much, Guy. A big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for Guy Arielli. Guy, if you may please go on the stage, I'd like to, one of our keynote speakers, would like to do the honors. Ladies and gentlemen.